Good afternoon, Martree. It's Matt Wright, Superintendent of Martree School District, bringing you this week's Monday message on Tuesday. I know I'm late, and I apologize. However, we had a board meeting last night. There's some important information that I want to share. I'm going to beg you to please listen to the entire message. Tonight is not going to take us long, but we're going to cover something really important. We will be putting out another video tomorrow that's full of information about what school will look like. So I would encourage you to also come back and watch that. Tonight, the first thing that I want to talk about is graduation. Graduation is Thursday night, and I know the seniors are excited. I'm excited, and I'm not even graduating. There's a group of kids that missed a lot and was supposed to graduate in May, and they've had to wait 2 extra months to have their moment, and their moment is literally 48 hours away, and I'm excited for them. Just a couple of reminders. Ticket holders, those of you who have one of the 6 seats for your family in the bleachers, remember, you can get in line at 5:15. You will be allowed in at 5:30. There is no reason to be in line before 5:15. If you've got one of those tickets, it doesn't matter if you show up at 5:28. You're still going to get that seat. We cannot allow people to get in line before 5:15. So 5:15, you'll begin getting in line. We'll have spots marked very clearly where you can see where your family should stand. And please make sure that you honor that. Those of you who aren't ticket holders, once again, there is no reason for you to get in line at 5:15. If you do not have a ticket, we cannot let you in. You will not be allowed to walk through those gates until 5:45. So get in line at 5:30. At 5:45, we'll escort you or show you where your student's circle is at. Just a reminder about the circles. You're going to need to bring something to sit in. Students, please make sure that you show up on time for your walkthrough. We won't have much time to rehearse, but we do want to talk you through what the ceremony will look like. Everybody, dress for heat. It is going to be hot. Typically, I wear a suit and a tie to graduation. This year, that's just not feasible. I'm going to be out there probably from 3 o'clock on, and I cannot wear a suit and tie that long. I also want to remind you that if you dress in your Sunday best, you're going to be, some of you will be getting in line at 5:15. You'll be in those bleachers at 5:30. The ceremony won't start till 6. It'll be over with at 6:30, and then it's going to probably take us 10 or 15 minutes to get out of there. Folks, those bleachers are hot. They are hot. So please make sure that you dress comfortably. The ceremony, as I just said, will last for about 30 minutes, and we have to dismiss in orderly fashion. So we'll dismiss by group, not all at once. So please make sure that you keep that in mind as the ceremony is over. Just a couple more things. Number one, we cannot allow kids to leave the venue until people are in their cars and leaving. So please make sure that those kids are going to want to get out of there and be with their families. So please respect that. Don't hang out. Get in your cars. Go to wherever your family is going to meet and celebrate at home. We cannot allow that on school grounds. Secondly, you will not be allowed in without a mask. You have to bring your own mask. And when you enter the venue, that mask has to stay on the entire time. So the next thing I want to talk about is masks, and I know that's a hot topic for a lot of people, and it invokes almost an immediate response, and I understand. But before I start talking about masks, I want to tell you a little bit about who I am as a person. I am not a very political person. I don't put a lot of weight into what Donald Trump or Nancy Pelosi say, because behind everything they say, there's an agenda. And so as I start making decisions or start looking for information on going back to school and what it needs to look like, please understand the only opinions that I am seeking are those of medical doctors, nurses, nurse practitioners, and other school people. And so we have been in constant contact with multiple medical doctors and nurse practitioners to get the latest information on what COVID looks like in our area, which is important, but also in our state and in our nation. And we've been in constant contact with other superintendents, other board members, other teachers, trying to find out what they're doing within their district so that we can use that insight to create or establish the precautions and procedures necessary for us to reduce the spread of COVID within our school. And so over the course of the past couple of weeks, I think some of the most eye-opening data has been shared with me, and I want to take this opportunity to share it with you. Number one, if you are around a person who has COVID and no mask, but you have on a mask, there's a 70% chance that you become infected. Let me say that one more time. If you are around a person who has COVID and no mask, but you have a mask, there's a 70% chance you become infected. Number two, if you are around a person who has COVID and a mask, but you have no mask, then there's a 5% chance that you become infected. So you can clearly see what happens when a person who has COVID when a person who has COVID, what happens when they wear a mask. The chances of you contracting it drop by 65%. And then finally, if you are around a person who has COVID and you both are wearing masks, there's a 1.5% chance that you become infected. Some of those same nurses and doctors have told us that if you're not willing to put masks on everybody, that you are wasting money by purchasing cleaning supplies and hand sanitizers, because those items alone simply will not cut it. I think that this thing, though, is the thing that bothers me the most, and quite frankly, it bothers me. That is that, contrary to popular belief, kids are at risk and kids can be very contagious. Now, the data doesn't suggest that. Why not? Well, if you'll think back to when all this started back in March, there were two populations that the government acted quickly to protect, and rightfully so, but that was our elderly and that was our schools. In Arkansas, we transitioned from face-to-face instruction to online instruction when there were 9 cases. 9 cases. And so, and rightfully so. There was so much that was not known at that time. And that was consistent for our state, that was consistent for the nation, and that was consistent for much of the world. So the science doesn't really know what's going to happen with kids. And here's what bothers me. In order to get a clear picture, they say we have to reopen schools to be able to understand the impact on students, or that we won't be able to understand the impact on students until we open schools. Well, let me tell you something. Folks, our students shouldn't be society's guinea pigs. I am not willing to gamble with the health of our students when there's so much that still isn't known. If you knew me in my prior life, when I was teaching and coaching before I was an administrator, you know that I was a baseball guy. I loved baseball, coached baseball, still love baseball today, and I always played the percentages in baseball, maybe even to a fault according to some of my former players. But the percentages drove my decision making. It told me when to bunt, when to steal, when to take, when to throw a fastball, when to throw a curve. The percentages drove my decision making, and they still do to this day. And y'all, the percentages are very clear. Masks help. I know there's going to be a significant amount of challenges as we start talking about masks and students. However, what I want for you to keep in mind is that students aren't going to wear masks from the moment they show up until the moment they leave. Keep in mind that we're only going to be using masks with students when social distancing isn't possible, when they're transitioning from one class to another, when they are entering or exiting classrooms. Just those times when we can't guarantee that 6 feet space is going to take place, that's when we plan on using masks. Masks will serve as an extra layer of protection. So the science is clear. One of the most significant ways we can reduce the spread of COVID is through the wearing of face masks. There are numerous studies available that demonstrate how the spread of COVID can be significantly reduced from an infected individual to a non-infected person if both people are wearing those masks. Ensuring the safety and the well-being of our students, of our teachers, of our staff, that's our highest priority. That's why we're going to require face coverings for all students in grades K through 12 when we resume on-site instruction on August 24th. Now, we will provide those face coverings. Students will not be required to wear masks the entire day, as I said, but instead we will wear them, or they'll be worn for added protection when that 6-foot social distancing is not possible. It's easier to throw stones than it is to make tough decisions. I understand that. And as a leader, I also understand that as it pertains to the decisions that I make, especially this one, I've got to be comfortable knowing that any decision I make is going to be wrong to a lot of people. But I want for you to understand something. There's one thing that I considered the most in this decision, and that is safety. That was your student's safety. That was your safety. That was the safety of your spouse. That was the safety of your parents and the safety of your grandparents. That was the safety of your neighbor and my neighbor. Friends, if I'm just being honest with you in that moment, that is a heavy weight to carry. But there's not a rule or regulation that I would consider being too much if it meant that by playing the percentages, I could help keep people safe. So moving forward, just know that even though we're asking to, even though we're requiring that students have those masks, we understand what that's going to look like. We understand that that's going to take a period of time on working with kids. Students aren't going to be sent to the office because they take their mask off. But we would encourage you, start using this opportunity to work with some of the younger ones on wearing masks. And also understand that this isn't something this wasn't something that I did very lightly. This isn't something I did very quickly. It's something that I've been thinking about over probably the last month. But having some of the conversations that we had, seeing the situation that we're currently facing, I believe it's in the best interest of our community. I believe it's in the best interest of our students. It's in the best interest of our students. So I hope you agree. I hope you understand why we do what we do, and that is in the name of student safety. Just want to remind you very quickly, next Monday is the deadline to register for the online option, which is 100% virtual, 100% stay at home. Those of you who are not interested in that, you do nothing. You do nothing. You just show up for school on the first day. In the meantime, I hope you have a great week. Just a reminder, we're going to put out a message tomorrow that will address several other things on what school will look like when we resume. Have a great night.